much, Representative. I appreciate that. It's great to be with you all this morning. I did want to share a quick announcement with you. I am not running for Congress. I'm very happy serving as your Secretary of State, and this is certainly going to be a very busy year for us, as you can imagine already has been. I want to thank Brad Carver for asking me to come speak today, and it worked out good. I've got our youngest daughter, Amy Porter, who many of you have met, is playing in a basketball tournament up and coming. So I drove her up there and dropped her off. I hit the 6th, and I'm at the 11th, and then I'll go back. So it's worked out good. But I did want to just thank you all for participating in the process. This is a very important process, as you all know, that we go through in Republican politics. And in my opinion, I've attended a lot of these meetings over the years, have been a delegate, served on the Rules Committee at the 12th Convention in Tampa. And you know, when you do that, you understand kind of how this process works and how important it is, really, I think, to the grassroots of our party. And I think in a small way this year, the SEC primary idea and that regional primary that we had back on March 1st is really helping sustain the level of excitement that not only we have here in Georgia, but really across the Southeast and the rest of the country. And I'm very proud of that, but I'm also very thankful. I'm thankful of you all for supporting the SEC primary. I know many people in this room I've talked to about this idea, and folks have come up to me and have told me, you know, this is really exciting. We appreciate you doing it. But it wasn't just me. I know there's some legislators here. I was given the ability to set the date by the governor and the legislature several years ago. That was a very wise decision. I think it gave me the flexibility to be able to do that. The state party, you know, our national committee folks, Randy Evans and Linda Herron, were very supportive of this idea and helped us on many fronts, working with other states. The leadership of the state party, you know, going through setting the rules on how the SEC primary would work, how the delegates would be allotted, the different thresholds. I know Brad Carver was very involved in the 20% threshold. I think all of that together with the idea that I had over 2 years ago to do a regional primary was very important part of the process. So I thank you all for that. And I think, you know, you can say that we saw more candidates, I believe, I know that I've ever seen coming through our state in the last year and a half as we saw this whole thing unfold. And I don't think anybody dreamed that would happen. And it was very exciting. I know for myself, I know it was exciting for a lot of the grassroots people in the party. I remember talking to some people that were following the campaigns, and they were come up and go, you know, I've now met 6 or 7 presidential candidates in person, been able to talk to them. This guy happened to be a blogger and said I got to interview most all of them. And that's really what we were looking for, was for Georgians, for you all to have a voice in this process. And I think that worked well. And I think it's going to work well as this process continues to unfold, because having these candidates come through Georgia and the road to the White House coming through the state of Georgia and the rest of the South has given all of us, no matter who we supported on March 1st and who we're supporting now, it's given us all an opportunity to see and to learn about all these candidates. And we have had a great slate of candidates. And we have fought like hell, like we sometimes do in Republican primaries, but that's part of it. But at the end of the day, as many have said earlier, we have got to unite to stop Bernie Sanders from being our next president, or perhaps Hillary. I also want to remind you, as you've seen the congressional candidates, I know there's some legislators here, there's a lot of other important races on the ballot this year, not only in the primary, but going into the general election. I was with Senator Isaacson early. You know, I know there's several candidates in the Republican primary for that race. I for one, am supporting Johnny Isaacson because he's been a consistent conservative, and I think he's going to win the election in November and help us hold the U.S. Senate. But regardless of who you're supporting, you know, all of these type races, we've got to get behind our presidential nominee and all our nominees all the way down to, county commission races and sheriff races, to support this ticket and to continue to have people in positions where we can move our state forward. So I want to urge you all to do that. And in closing, I just want to leave you with this. I can promise you one thing: as we go through the primary, we will certainly have runoffs in July, moving into the presidential race the first Tuesday in November. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we may not end up with a runoff after the general election in November. But we will have integrity in our elections. We'll have that because we have had a legislature that has passed common sense things like showing a photo ID so we know who you are before you vote. I will continue to fight for that as your Secretary of State. We'll also continue to fight to make sure that we know who somebody is and where they're from, and that they're a citizen of this state and the United States before they vote in the state of Georgia. That's something that we've been also working on for a long time. But I'm also going to be fighting, as I've said many times, we want to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. We're going to also fight to make sure that our processes are accessible. And there's some on the other side that will accuse me of not having accessible elections. Well, let me tell you, it has never been easier to participate in the process than it has in Georgia right now. We now have online voter registration, which many of you know. You've got to have a driver's license to do that. So it's actually a more secure way for us to register people to vote, because if they have a driver's license, we have checked their citizenship, we've got their electronic signature, their photograph, we know where they live, they've been through all the due diligence, meet the age requirements. There is no slip-ups or miscues on their form because things are handwritten. It's just a great process and another option to give people a way to register to vote, and not to mention you can do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we're gonna, when you think about early voting, we've got 21 days of in-person early voting. We've got absentee by mail. We now have a mandatory Saturday, which will be coming up on May the 15th, and then of course on Election Day. So you all have my word that we're gonna continue to have a good, fair, secure process as we go through this. And let me just tell you, we will make tough decisions for Republicans that do things wrong, for Democrats that do things wrong, or if there's third-party groups or other associated groups that are out there doing things that are wrong, we're going to investigate those and go after them to make sure we have a good, fair process. And we're going to do it fairly for everyone, because that is really what America stands for. And if we can have a fair election, regardless of the outcome, most people can live with that. So I guarantee you we're going to do that. But most of all, I want to leave you with uniting behind our nominees. Let's work hard. Let's don't believe what some at the AJC do. I'm not speaking to Jim Galloway here. But don't believe, as some of them do, that this is a blue state now or a purple state. We're going to continue to be a red state, because we're going to unite and we're going to work hard. We're going to work hard at the grassroots level, and that's what we owe a great deal of thanks to you folks for. So thank you so much for having me today, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.